of the highest levels of gun violence and traffic fatalities in the county. Many of our neighbors are experiencing homelessness or severely rent burdened. And we do this while living in a part of the city that has been ignored and underinvested. I know people are angry right now about the direction that the city and county are going. What I'm here to tell you is that people in East Portland have been angry for decades. I am proud to live in East Portland, to represent it, and to fight like hell for it. I ran my first campaign on the lack of sidewalks and opportunities for my community. And people came to support me, and together we got sidewalks and a whole lot more. And I bring that power-building approach to every issue I've taken on as an elected official. I bring people together to get big things done. I have the experience, the record of accomplishment, and the vision to meet this moment and lead Multnomah County in the right direction. That's why I have the broadest and deepest coalitions of community leaders and organizations in this race who know I am the best person to be the next chair of Multnomah County. My track record as an elected official is hallmarked by my success in breaking new ground since my first day in office. As Oregon's first Latina representative, I passed the Coal to Clean bill, a first-in-the-nation law to get coal out of Oregon's energy mix. I championed a first-in-the-nation law to expand reproductive health access. At the county, I started the practice of bringing businesses, community leaders, and schools together to successfully site shelters in neighborhoods. And I led the work on Preschool for All, which is a national standard for quality universal preschool. This is an inflection point, and the race for Multnomah County Chair is one of the most critical on the ballot in May. From our houselessness crisis to combating climate change to increasing community safety and addressing systemic racism, we need a county chair who is a proven collaborative leader, a capable leader who is capable of stepping into the job on day one. That's who I am, and that's why I ask for your vote this November. Thank you.
So, Ms. Peterson, one of the successes you touted was leading the effort to pass Preschool for All, you just referenced. Yet media reporting has identified concerns about per pupil cost. Do you have concerns, and what would you propose to address those concerns and strengthen the program?
Yeah, so I'm very proud of the work that we did with Preschool for All, not just in the fact that it exists now, but in the way that I brought people together to have a deep conversation about what we needed to impact the lives of children and families who have the least access to quality preschool today and who are falling behind. We worked together to develop a plan where brown and black mothers were at the center of our decision-making process. They were part of the work of the campaign, and they are part of the work now as we're doing the implementation. Before I was an elected official, I was actually in the technology sector for the past 14 years. I worked at startups, I worked at Fortune 500 companies. Preschool for All right now is in the startup stage. And just like anybody who's a small business owner knows, when you're starting up a new business, there are additional costs that go into making sure you're training your workers, that you're buying your equipment, that you're getting everything you need to lead it the right way. We built into Preschool for All an 18-month ramp-up period so that we weren't going to be doing things by the seat of our pants, but we were going to be planful and purposeful in that we were supporting our workers and our providers, and that is exactly what's happening. We had a goal of getting at least 500 children into school this fall. We have 687 children who are experiencing Preschool for All. So we have additional higher costs, that's true, but that goes into things like buying new equipment and facilities and getting things up and running for providers as well as professional development and training. And we are also banking a lot of money because we know as we bring more children into the program, we're going to have expanded costs. So this is all part of the plan, and I encourage people to check out the plan online, but this is the potential to really be a game changer for children, families, and preschool workers. We have severe child care and preschool deserts all over the state, including in Multnomah County. This is something that's an investment, not just for those people in the program, but for our entire community. But just like any good business, it takes a while to ramp up. Thank you.
Thank you. Where do you live? What is your community? And how does that inform your priorities?
That was literally my opening statement. So I will tell you, so I live in East Portland. I live in the Hazelwood neighborhood. As I said, we've lived there for 17 years. I've also lived in almost every section of Portland, except for Northeast. So I'm so sorry, but like Southeast and Southwest Portland, but East Portland is home. This is where we're raising our kids. And it is a place where, there are many good things. We live across the street from a park, right? But that is also a place where we have people living in RVs because they can't afford any other place to live. It is a place where we are like within walking distance of the Midland Library. But I hesitated for years to let my daughter ride her bike to the library by herself because she has to cross 122nd Avenue, and it wasn't safe to do that. That's why I ran for office as a mom with an 18-month-old and a 2.5-year-old when I decided to run for office, because I was so angry about the things in East Portland that weren't the same as all of those other places that I lived in the city. And that's the work that I've done. I got involved in my own neighborhood association. I was on the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association board for many years, but I wanted to step up. I wanted to do more. I didn't want to just talk about the problems. I didn't want to just complain about it, but I wanted to actually, step in and be a part of making the change. And so there have been very concrete actions that I've been able to take to help East Portland, like crosswalks, like sidewalks, but there have also been larger things that I know impact the people who live in East Portland, like raising the minimum wage, getting paid sick time passed, fighting for cleaner air for people who live around our highways. So who I am and why I do this work in many ways is shaped by where I live, being from East Portland. Thank you.
Since you mentioned East Portland, one of our attendees here wants you to define East Portland.
Okay. So literally everybody has a different definition for it. So for me, I live east of 205, right? That is like old school East Portland. But a lot of times when we talk about East Portland, we also talk about basically anything in the city from 82nd Avenue East. And there's a lot of differences when you think about Multnomah County, when you think about the city of Portland, and that 82nd Avenue is actually a really good dividing line. When you look at Multnomah County, the people who live west of 82nd Avenue, just considering that population, has one of the highest income brackets, if that was its own county, in the entire country. If you look 82nd Avenue in East, it's one of the lowest, right? And so this is kind of this is a really important piece when you talk about East Portland, when you think about East Portland. It's not just a geographic location, right? It's also an economic situation. It's also a more diverse part of the city and the county. So when you think about equity, when you think about racial equity, climate justice, all of these issues that are so important, when you think about how we deliver services to people in need, people who are homeless or at risk of being homelessness, right? We have to think of the view of where they're living and how that impacts the privilege that they have.
So this is a 3-part question on the houseless. So I'm going to read the whole thing rather than one at a time. What is the role of the county with regard to housing our most vulnerable citizens? Second part, how can the county, city, and state better coordinate to respond to the multi-level aspects of houselessness? Third part, many seem to believe that there is a binary choice to provide short-term shelter or long-term affordable housing. How do you view the issue and balance the various issues?
And how long do I have this?
An hour and a half.
Yeah. So this is like one of the fundamental questions, and it's in 3 parts today, but we have some form of this question asked in every single, forum that we participate in, because this is really the key. I firmly believe that housing and houselessness is going to be the number 1 priority of the next Multnomah County term. This will be my number 1 priority, because we're at such a critical point right now in the crisis that we're seeing that's impacting, and we see it in Portland, we hear about it downtown for sure, but it is affecting everyone. I talked about the RVs that are on my block, right? I know the same thing is happening in Gresham. We were in Corbett for a forum, and somebody who lives up Larch Mountain said there is somebody living in a tent 5 miles up Larch Mountain, right? So this is an issue everywhere. The first question was, what is the role of the county in housing? And I think that's a really interesting question, because we actually don't provide housing for people. Like, we don't build housing, we don't manage housing projects, right? There are other folks that do that. What we do, though, is we're responsible for the Multnomah County dollars of the Supportive Housing Services measure. And what we do is we put that money into affecting people getting housing by providing long-term rental assistance for people. So we help make housing an option for folks. But the work that we do, the critical work that the county does in behavioral health services, in providing supportive housing and delivering homeless services, right? It's really contingent on the fact that we don't have enough affordable housing in the city, in the county, in this state. And we have to understand how we work within that system. So just this morning, I actually convened a board briefing on affordable housing, and I invited people from the city, people from Metro, people from the state to come and inform the county board of what was happening in affordable housing. So that kind of moves on to the second question, because I believe that there are way too many silos in government right now. We are not working effectively together, and we're seeing it every single day on the street. Angela talked earlier about a lack of leadership, and I absolutely agree in that. People shouldn't have to know what part of government is responsible for what. They just need to see solutions happening. And so that's one of the reasons why I brought that briefing together, because I want the board, I want the county to know what other work is happening so that we can leverage that, so that we can be working in conjunction together. That is the stance I will take as the next Multnomah County Chair. I've already made commitments to the mayor. We are going to have a day-long retreat and talk about all of the different ways that the city and the county work together, or as it is, not work together, and see how we can do a better job of that. I'm so proud to have endorsements of people on Metro Council, because that's going to be important. State legislators, because making sure the state understands the problems in Multnomah County and the city of Portland is vitally important. I have the experience, the relationships to really dig in this collaborative work and get to some places where we're making things happen, not making excuses and pointing fingers. And then the last one, the binary choice. I never believe in binary choices. I think that it is, anytime you hear it's got to be this or that, black or white, whatever, that is not how life works, and I think we all know this. We have been investing through the supportive housing services measure, through county general fund dollars, through the city general fund dollars, in long-term rental assistance, in shelters and alternative shelters, and in getting people into permanent housing for the past 6 years. We are developing more. The county has opened the most shelters since COVID of any other entity. So there isn't a binary choice. I believe our North Star has to be getting people housed permanently. But we also have to address the fact that we need people to be safely off the street. There have been people in my district that have died because cars have swerved out and hit them where they were sitting on a ramp, right? That is not acceptable. And so I supported the mayor's move to actually have people on high crash corridors not allowed to camp there, because that is not safe. But we have to do that humanely. We have to meet people where they are, and we have to make sure that we are providing alternatives that actually are effective in stabilizing people and keeping them safe. So places where doors can close, people will have their space, not necessarily a congregate shelter. I know somebody who experienced homelessness who told me, I'd rather spend the night in jail than be in a congregate shelter, right? So we have to really recognize where people are coming from in terms of their own trauma. And then finally, I will say that I believe that the power of the government is most effective when we are working at scale. And so looking at those bigger investments that the government can do, like master leasing or buying hotels, working with private sector to turn commercial buildings into affordable housing, all of these are solutions that I'm a big fan of, because that's where government can be most effective.
You mentioned the mayor. The relationship between the mayor and the county chair has been decidedly frosty. What do you plan to do to dramatically improve this critical relationship from day one?
Well, I talked about that a little. I've had several meetings with the mayor. The commissioners always meet with our counterparts at this, or at least we should. And so I've been meeting with the mayor for the last 6 years, but it's definitely increased in frequency over the last few months, and especially considering the latest proposal that the mayor has had. I am committed to making the relationship between the city and the county work effectively. And for me, it is not about personalities. We can set that aside, right? When I was a legislator in Salem, I worked across the aisle to get things like driver's card for all workers passed in a bipartisan way, right? Like, you have to find the common ground, you have to find the common goal that you have and work towards that. That is the important thing. That is a skill that I've honed over many years, especially in Salem, and especially, and definitely in the last 6 years as county commissioner, negotiating things like getting preschool for all passed at the ballot. So I'm committed to the relationship, not just with the mayor, but with all of the city council. We deserve a city that functions, we deserve a county that functions, and we need people acting like grown-ups in the room, and like I said, not finger pointing, but really committed to the higher goals that we should all have in having to work well for our communities.
Do we have
Last
time for
question.
one more?
Last question.
Would you support Mayor Wheeler's proposed city-managed sites? And would you be willing to lend county funds to help the city?
So this is, this is a very interesting proposal, and I really, what I am grateful for is the mayor and Commissioner Ryan's commitment to addressing the issues in front of us with urgency. There are a lot of unknowns about this project, things that we just don't know yet, like how much it's going to cost, like who the provider is going to be, like where these are going to be located. And those are all answers that are really important to me. So I think it would be very irresponsible to say, yes, I full-throatedly support something like that without having those details. I also really, I feel like there's been commitments from the mayor's office that they want some partnership in developing this idea or developing ideas going forward. And I'm going to take that to heart because I don't think you can, it's a real partnership when you're saying, this is our plan, now you have to pay for it. That's not how it works. It doesn't really respect other people, and it also bypasses a lot of the digging into deeps to make sure that this plan is going to work as it should. So that being said, I'm really interested in learning more. I've already talked to some of the commissioners who went on the trip to look at a model of this down in LA, and I'm going on the next trip that they're going to LA. So I'm definitely open to this, and really have a strong commitment of working together with the city.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Sharon, it's your turn. Your 2-minute elevator speech.
Okay, 2-minute elevator speech. Thank you. Wow, this is amazing. It's great to see so many people here. I am Sharon Myron, and I am the Multnomah County Commissioner representing District 1, and that is all of the county west of the Willamette River. It is also inner southeast, and a sliver of northeast, south of I-84, out to Cesar Chavez. I initially ran for Multnomah County Commissioner because the work of the county is my life's work and passion. I'm an ER doctor. I am a public health advocate. I'm a mental health and addiction specialist, and I provide services, homeless street medicine. I go out and volunteer on the streets, taking care of people who are living unsheltered outside throughout our county. The county's primary role is health and human services. And we are the local public. I should have asked my first question I usually ask, which is, how many people here actually know what the county does? But I'm not gonna ask, I'm just, that's great. Just use up time. The county's primary role is the local public health authority. We are the local mental health authority. We are the local board of health, and we oversee the largest network of publicly funded community health clinics in the state. That is where we spend the majority of our $3.3 billion budget, and that is what I do. The chair is the CEO who writes that budget. She hires and fires all department heads, and she sets the direction for the county. I'm running for chair because I believe that we're going in the wrong direction. And you don't have to look far to see that evidence. More and more people living and dying on our streets, drug addiction and overdoses at an all-time high, gun violence escalating. These are public health crises, and they're literally killing us. As an ER doctor, I lead teams and we triage emergencies. We stop bleeding, we resuscitate, and we put people on the road to recovery. that is what we need to be doing for our county, and that is what I will do as the county's next chair. I look forward to the time we have together. I'm so appreciative of your being here, and we can talk about how we will address those big crises facing us. And I got this stuff. Thank you for being here.
So I have,
Oh, yeah.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Similar to what we asked Ms. Peterson, where do you live and what is your community and how does that inform your priorities?
Thank you. I live in Hillsdale in Southwest Portland, and I have 2 teenagers who attend the public school there. And I also, that area is very close to Old Town Chinatown, to downtown. It's very connected to a lot of the different areas on that side. And what I see being in Southwest, on the west side, is that it is an incredibly diverse community. That we hear things like, oh, the west side, all the wealthy, and there is incredible wealth, absolutely, in some portions on the west side, and some areas on the east side as well. But we also have a vibrant immigrant community in Southwest. We have the biggest receiver of Title I funds, one of our elementary schools on Capitol Hill. There is tremendous, it's a low-key area, but with tremendous diversity that is welcoming, just kind of walk neighborhoods except Multnomah Village, where I'm right next to. They don't have sidewalks either. There's a lot of fighting for sidewalks and that kind of work in that area as well. But it's a small, close community.
So here's your 3-part question on houselessness.
Houselessness.
Yeah, whatever. What is the role of the county with regard to housing our most vulnerable citizens? Second part, how can the county, city, and state better coordinate to respond to the multi-level aspects of houselessness? And third part, many seem to believe there is a binary choice to provide short-term shelter or long-term affordable housing. How do you view the issue and balance the various issues?
So I love that question because it does get to core work of the county, and it also gets to an area that I think there is so much misunderstanding about. What does the county exist? What does the county do? What's the relationship to the city, particularly when it comes to houselessness? And the county focuses on services. We do, as Commissioner Vega Peterson said, we do behavioral health. We are the local mental health authority. So that's addiction and mental health services. And there is tremendous need right now for people who are living unsheltered outside. We're at beyond a crisis point. We also do all of the wraparound supportive housing services for people when they become housed. And that can range anywhere from a light touch, helping someone maybe get their ID, to very deep case management, social supports, mental health supports, addiction counseling, etc. We also do homeless outreach services. So we have teams through our contracted providers. All that we do, virtually all our services, are through contracting with outside organizations. And so we oversee services with outreach on the streets. Again, where there is a lot of challenge because there is virtually no coordination there. People are living all over the place, unsheltered outside, and the ability to find anyone, let alone find them again and follow up, is very limited. And so there is a lot that we do at the county that is directly related to the issues we are seeing right now on our streets. In terms of the city, and this is a big one actually. The county, the Joint Office of Homeless Services is a county department. Doesn't sound like it would be, it shouldn't be, but it is overseen by the department head who is overseen exclusively by the county chair. So there is that direct tie-in. Through an agreement with the city, they give us a bunch of money. They don't have necessarily much authority over what the Joint Office of Homeless Services does. And that's a big bone of contention. That is some of the history around why the mayor has come out with this proposal, feeling like there hasn't been sort of this real agreement that there needs to be, and will be one of my priorities. I have already been working with the mayor and Commissioner Ryan to be more of a partnership and collaboration. City, county, state, clearly, again, it's all about those partnerships and working together. And I just, it was a few weeks back, had a joint town hall with Representative Lisa Reynolds, our state rep, Commissioner Ryan, who I work very closely on all things homelessness, and we meet regularly to talk about these issues because it is so important to have that coordination and collaboration. I work with Commissioner Matz. We're working on coordinating behavioral health outreach services because the city has some, the county has some, but never the two shall meet. So we are working together to create the coordination we need. So we have to work together. I have exceptional relationships already doing that work. I don't need to start that. I will move full into it as county chair. Sorry, my mouth is really dry. Finally, binary choice. And there's absolutely not a binary choice. And I'm glad that Commissioner Vega Peterson, that the chair, that they have come around to seeing that there is not a binary choice, because for so long there had been a refrain saying, you know, housing first. We only can focus on housing first. Anything we do on shelter is going to take away from that, so we should not invest in shelter. We know that that is not the case, and it cannot be the case because there's not been an official count, but at least 8,000 to 10,000 people living unsheltered outside on our streets. We are not going to have enough housing to house those individuals. They need to be safer and healthier in better places than they are now, and we need to be able to address that public health crisis quickly and urgently. So I see sort of two issues, which has been a problem in not addressing at the county. One, public health crisis, people living and dying in increasing numbers in squalor on our streets. The other is that longer term housing continuum, getting people into housing. It needs to be a both and. The question is how we do it with oversight, accountability, and plans to do this quickly and get people safer and healthier.
So this is a little duplication, but I think all the residents need to be heard. This is from a Rose City Park resident and mother of 3. So it's a little long, so patience. Studies in communities across the country have shown that permanent supportive housing save taxpayers over $15,000 per year per person in public costs for shelter, criminal justice, healthcare, emergency room, and behavioral health costs. Rental assistance for the Housing First approach seems to be highly effective at reducing homelessness and helping people maintain housing stability, whereas congregate emergency shelter options are often inadequate and can cause further trauma for the people who use them. Can you tell us your philosophy when it comes to tackling the homeless crisis in Multnomah County and what you would prioritize first? And I know you've already talked about this, but if you want to add to that.
That actually is really helpful to help hone and bring out what I would do about that. So the first question asks about sort of the role of the county, whether there's a binary choice. This gets into the nitty-gritty. And it has to do with what I had mentioned about there being sort of two big issues: the public health crisis, humanitarian crisis, and the longer term needs. And those are not at all mutually exclusive. In fact, we have to address both of these, and they are complementary. So I've done a lot of work in this area. I have taken care of people in their tents, drained abscesses on the streets, spoken with and visited with and connected with hundreds of individuals living outside who are impacted by our systems, gone into those trailers that are parked on our streets, And I know that we need to get people into places safer and healthier quickly. So first, I would declare homelessness for the crisis, a public health crisis. That can bring resources to bear, clarify issues, roles, responsibilities, and allow us to put an emergency operations type approach in place where we get all the right people in the right place, not just for a one-day retreat, but have people in the same room that are working together to coordinate a response and get individual people what they need and break down barriers. Then I will rapidly work to stand up an ecosystem of alternative shelter options where people want to be, and that goes to this question. We can't just put people in congregate shelters. This is something I've been crying out for years, that people, they work for some people in some situations, not for all. We need an ecosystem because congregate shelters can be scary, can be dangerous, and people get their stuff stolen. Not the right place for some people. So I proposed and I led the effort to get this in the budget, thank you, and get this funded, and it is now a proven demonstration project. Tiny villages, like 10 structures or less, with basic amenities, partnering with a church in a parking lot or in a different area or on public land, not like the big Safe Rest villages, tiny sites. We can get people there with their stuff, and that's where they say they want to be, and then they can be safer and healthier. And larger sites, for example, what the mayor has proposed. And my staff actually, my chief of staff went down to California to visit with all the city commissioners and their representatives to go visit a model, because I've been exploring all over. There are so many things that work that we have not brought to bear and that we can do differently, because I know this work. And then long term, yes.
One more.
One more? Okay, you get to pick. The relationship between the mayor and the county chair has been decidedly frosty. What do you plan to do to dramatically improve that from day one? Or would you support the mayor Wheeler's proposed city managed sites, and would you be willing to lend county funds to help the city? You get to
So I will do the frosty relationship.
Frosty.
Because you can listen tomorrow, I will be testifying in favor of the mayor's proposal at city council tomorrow. So you can listen to that one. So the relationship, and I'm gonna just read the question. Relationship between the mayor and the county chair has been decidedly frosty. What do you plan to do to dramatically improve this critical relationship from day one? I have already, it's not from day one, this has been from the beginning of my term as a county commissioner, and I have worked regularly with the mayor's office, with his staff, with all of the city commissioners. I've had, I think just this year alone, over 25 meetings directly with the commissioners, with the mayor, with all of their staff as well, to figure out what our solutions can be. And frankly, they're frustrated in the same way that I have been frustrated seeing the lack of responsiveness from the county. They have been trying as well to get things done, and I think what the mayor doing right now, putting out this proposal, is saying, hey, calling the question, this is urgent. We've been saying it's urgent. Commissioner Myron has been saying it's urgent. We've been trying to do this stuff and have not gotten together on it. I have gotten together with them, I've worked very closely with them, and I intend to continue to foster that relationship.
Thank you. Your end summary speech.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
I'm going to find it because I'm sure that I don't forget anything. Because there's so much to say. I feel like I should do a magic trick or something. So, we are beyond the tipping point now in terms of the crises that are facing our communities. As we've talked about throughout this forum, our community is suffering and people are dying. We have a fragmented, uncoordinated, dysfunctional system without a leader, without a North Star. I will put the pieces together because I know the systems that are the county. I have worked directly in them with people on the street, in our ER, seeing people who fall through the cracks in our system and end up in crisis because we have not done better. And I see where we can do better. I see how the pieces fit together, and I have an extensive history of leadership, local and state level, in addressing exactly these types of crises head on. And I think about a book of dot to dots. It's kind of how I boiled it down. I go, we have in our systems right now, we have like a dot here and maybe a dot there and scattered dots. We are missing so many of the dots, and we are missing, more importantly, the connections of all the dots.